Well, I guess everybody knows I'm John from DataWorks. Can you just go around and tell me who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Yes, sir. My name's Theresa Yenwine. I'm from Jackson, Tennessee, and I'm a district math coordinator.
Okay, math. So we can talk about math today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who's next? Jennifer, I think you're unmuted.
Well, I am with Jackson Madison County Schools, and I'm a district literacy across contents, supporting social studies and professional development.
Okay, social studies. All right. And who's the third person?
Donna Dahl. I am an instructional coach. So I'm still in the building with Southeast Middle School in North Carolina.
Okay. Well, let me give you my message about coaching. Training is easy, implementation is hard. And implementation requires coaching. The teachers, they get at what I call the awareness level. They know to call non-volunteers or to pair share, but they are not doing it because they don't have it as a habit yet. And you need coaching is what develops habits. And I actually have a little slide on that. Just a PD by itself doesn't get implementation. Coaching is a big part of it. I'm doing a big reform in Texas, and we spent a lot of time on coaching. And one of our rules was every teacher seen every week with coaching. Now, I'm talking about real-time coaching, in situational coaching where you're in the classroom, have the kids get their whiteboards, have them answer in a complete sentence, reteach, there's a couple of wrong answers. You're giving them cues in real time. And I'll just start right here. Here's a couple of the strategies we were using. And for coaches, these, of course, are some of the things you can cue right in the classroom, is to have the students pronounce new words, teach them how to say new words. And, academic language is low-frequency words. We're not using them. They're new words. Mitosis, constitution, amendment, just even those are big words. So teach them that. Okay, the next one. Track and read is we're going to do a lot of choral reading. So anyone who's working on literacy, we should be reading the definitions, reading the checking for understanding questions. And I'm not just talking about the text. The story is sometimes a conversational English. It's the academic part we want. So science and social science, you've probably heard the literacy approach to science and social science means part of the time we're reading something. And I can just give you an example. I did a history lesson, just a few weeks ago, and it was about the ideas, the figures, and events of the 60s, really of the protest movements, okay? And they said Martin Luther King did something. I said, now we're going to read it about a little bit. Now we're going to classify who was the figure, Martin Luther King, what was the philosophy, what was the event. So now you've taken what used to be a lecture, and you're now looking at some text and you're classifying. So anyway, that's the literacy approach. The high schools I work with, we said we should be reading a little bit during every lesson. Not necessarily silent reading, but reading for a purpose to extract some information. Okay, I went off a little bit there. Okay, gestures. Gestures, you've probably used them for English learners, gigantic, minuscule. Now we're going to use them to remember things. We're going to do something strategically to help us to remember some concepts. Okay, I forgot to ask you, what grade levels are you working with?
Now, I have 6th through 8th grade in our building.
Yeah, you were middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but do we have K-12 all together?
I'm mostly K-8, but do some coordinating with the high school as well.
Okay, but I could use examples all the way from elementary to high school, I think, because we've got all the content here. Okay, pair share. I have a little saying for teachers. I will pair share every question for the rest of my career. Pair share is built-in wait time. You remember that count 3 to 5 seconds? No, it is the wait time. Every student answers every question during the pair share, even if you didn't call on them. Now, the coach, if you've been in the class, I'm going to ask you in a minute what you see in the classroom. Don't we usually see the same students answering the questions? Okay, so part of it is the pair share, everybody practices, and then we can do the non-volunteers also. Attention signal, when you do pair shares, you need a little classroom management or elementary school, eyes front, back straight. You're just training the students to talk and then not talk and look at you. All right, whiteboards, every question now, I would say every question I do is a whiteboard question. It can be 1 or 2 words, occasionally a complete sentence, or it could just be a multiple choice or something like that. Or in math, it's a worked out problem. With whiteboards, every student has to participate. I want to see everybody. You in the back, get the last boards up. Check your partner that you've got your board ready. Okay, all answers. And you can make instructional decisions. When you see them, this is my rule, 80%. If you have less than 80%, it's boards down and reteach. As a coach, you should see this right away. The teachers get frustrated when they have the wrong answers and they're not sure what to do. You should just say, reteach. I did this one time, I had a 50-50 answer. That means 50% was wrong. And sometimes when you get equal distributions, the kids are guessing. It's not that half of them know that. And I just did boards down. I retaught, this was actually first grade, and it came up to 100%. And the principal was in the back of the room, wow, I went from like 0 to 100%, but I saw it right away. Okay. All right, and the last one is we're going to all answer in complete sentences. And we're going to use a sentence frame. The noun in the sentence is the character trait in the passage. And that sentence frame has to have academic language. It's not my answer is, or I wrote B on my whiteboard. It's going to be Cinderella is the character because. And every complete sentence has to have a justify your answer. Justify your answer. Now, I may have gone off. I did the whole training on one slide. I mean, we've got 10 slides of these to go. Hey, Derek, Derek is about to say, well, show the slides. Okay, now, I've talked for a long time. I've actually talked too long. So I want you to tell me right now, get a whiteboard out or a piece of paper, or just circle something you're already taking notes, something you learned just from my little introduction where I was really saying, these are the strategies I want to use while training. All right, I just gave a little preview of these strategies. So write 1 or 2 words on your whiteboards, okay? And then you're gonna say one strategy I would like to use is. That's gonna be your sentence frame. One strategy I'd like to use is, and just tell me about something I've talked about so far. Okay, and then you have to justify your answer too. If we were in a real classroom, I'd be saying turn to your partner and say one strategy I will use is A, partner talk, B, partner talk. I want both people to talk. Okay, right now we're going to use our little command. I think it's right here. It's called chin it. So kids get ready, chin it. Let me see your answer. Boards up. Derek, I see you. Okay. The T-A-Y, I think that's a combination of your first name and last name, but can you read your answer to the class? Unmute. And you're going to say, the strategy I can use is?
Sure. The strategy I can use is eyes front, back straight.
Okay, and why did you select that?
Well, in our district, we've used SLANT, an acronym for SLANT. It's it's sort of long. It's hard for the kids to keep up with. So I like eyes front, straight, back straight. I like that. It's simple.
Well, I'll tell you, the kids actually sit up for
Right.
young students. And then they go, you've heard like listening position, feet on the floor, empty hands, eyes on the teacher. It's a little mechanical thing. It has to be a call response. That's part of it. Class, yes is the normal one. Okay, DAH, I'm reading your name off there. What did you put on your board? Can you read your board? Now notice I'm not reading your board. You have to read to me. The students have to read. So what did you put? What instructional strategy can you use?
Okay, I said one strategy I would like to use is whiteboards.
And why'd you select that?
Because I see them on the shelves in my teachers' classrooms and they're not using them. So I want to use that in my next PLC meeting so that
Okay.
I can model how to put those to use.
Okay, you see this, they're at the, what I call the awareness level. They know what a whiteboard is, but they're not at the automaticity level where they're using it without thinking about it. Now, you notice what I did right here. I said, get your paper right. I don't have to think. Do I use whiteboards? Where are they? I'll tell you a funny one. When you do observations, I said, I'm coming around to your class today. You walk in, the teacher's looking for the whiteboards and unwrapping them. And I think, it's observation. Isn't that what we call the pony show or whatever? That they're doing it because you're in the room, but they're not really doing it. Okay, one more. Jennifer Wells, can you unmute and just tell me some strategy you're thinking about right now?
Absolutely. So just being able to springboard off my colleague, Theresa, just being able to have that call and response. I'm a class, yes, hocus pocus, everyone focus.
Yeah.
And just being able to get them engaged.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of things. Students are not used to talking. They've been told to be quiet a lot. And the first time you try pair shares, you have to train your kids to pair share. You're going to talk. And here's an easy one if you just want to write this down. Write your name on your whiteboard. Everybody, write your name. Now you're going to turn to your partner. Let's have the left partner go first. My name is, and tell them your name. Now I want the right partner. My name is. Write your favorite color on your whiteboard. Get ready, let's practice, chin it. Don't lift it till it, ready, chin it. All boards should be up. Wait, I want all the boards right here. I mean, even practice raising the boards. And then now turn to your partner. Let's have the right partner go first. My favorite color is. So this is part of it, is training your students to do it. And when you do the coaching, you can tell when the kids have been doing it because they know how to do it right away in their practice. And there's a big benefit the second year, because the second year, the kids already know how to do it. Okay, one more thing for the administrative people. The research is 90% implementation. Okay, you need everyone to use whiteboards. School reform doesn't work if just a few teachers are doing it. It has to be, this is the way we do it here. We use whiteboards. We use complete sentences. Okay. All right. Now, I've got a question here. What do you see when you walk into the classroom? I'm going to ask this in a minute, but I'm going to show one that I saw. Okay, then I want you to think about what you're seeing in the classroom. There's usually two extremes, and let me just present one of them. So I'm going to look at my next slide. Here it is right here. This was a major school reform in Texas. I was on the leadership team, and we're going to do all this reform. And I said, no, we're going to start with classroom observations. We're not going to look at test scores and this other paper. We're going to look at the classroom. So if you look at this thing, you see up here, you've heard of learning objective, activate prior knowledge, concept development. These are, lesson components, skill development, guided practice, closure. So this is 45 teachers at 2 schools. So I think 19 in one school and 26 in the other. So maybe one teacher had a learning objective. A few teachers had a concept development. It looks good, but it's really only 25%. I mean, 90%, our goal is way out here. Our goal is way out here. And look at some of the strategies. Higher order questions, 0 at one school, maybe 2 teachers. Pair share, 1 or 2 teachers. Whiteboard, 1 teacher out of 45. Sentence frames, a couple. But just look at this last part. Students working by themselves. Almost 50% in one school and almost 75% in the other school. This changed our entire reform. The kids are working on computers, they're working in groups, they're working on worksheets. We're not doing, I think you all know the phrase Tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 instruction is standards-based, effective strategies, delivery of new content. And that's what we should be doing, not the kids working by themselves or learning on their own. Now, I'm going to ask you what you see at your school. And this is one extreme. The other extreme is what I call all teacher talk with no student engagement. Now, if you've coached high school, sometimes history, it's just a 50-minute lecture. There's no pair share, there's no discussion, there's no report back what you're learning, no summarize. I'm just telling you this is things I've seen. So everybody write down 1 or 2 things. I've got my question right here. What would your school look like using this observation form? And you can give some generalizations, mostly teacher talk or mostly kids working on their own, or maybe you have higher order questions or anything. So put a couple notes on your whiteboards and be ready if I call you. I think we're just about ready. Okay, we're going to get our whiteboards ready. And then I'm going to give the command, chin it. I want to see it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, boards up, chin it. Let's see them up here. The others, if you can leave your cameras on, unless something's happening, it'll be easier so I can see the whiteboards. All right, now I'm going to call a different order. Jennifer, if you're there, what does instruction look like that you see?
So we have a mixture of different things I see in the classroom. On an amazing day, I see teachers and students engaged, students doing group work. And then sometimes what's disheartening, sometimes we see students on their laptops where the teacher's in front of the classroom, but they're on their laptop and engaging in instruction, but there's no interaction between the students. And so just being able to still have a balance of a 21st century classroom using devices, but being able to still move forward with the think, pair, share, and being able to work together collaboratively.
I was in a classroom where kids were doing an art project on computers, and they were supposed to select a background. I finally stopped, so we need to decide how we pick a background, by the color, by the intensity, the effect. Said everybody explain to your partner why you picked your background. The lesson before that, the kids were just clicking. And so all of a sudden we were having a discussion, the strategies. Okay, the coach, can you give me yours? What do you see in the classroom?
Okay, I had to go get a whiteboard, sorry. So my school would look like teachers talking and students working in groups. They're seated in groups, but the teacher's not really interacting with the students necessarily. It's a lot of lecture, and students, some are listening and some are distracted by technology or drawing pictures in their notebooks.
We had to come up with a rule of no cell phones or something. We've had too much just playing on the computers. You need some control for that. Now, here's a little research for independent practice, and some of this, it's really to practice what you've already been taught. Now, some stuff we do on computers, you're actually supposed to be researching, find out something about Martin Luther King. But most of the time, the stuff we do is we're practicing something we were already taught. And make sure the students know how to do it. In EDI, the closure, if we don't have 80% of closure, we don't give the assignment. We only give what we know the kids can do. Okay, the last one. You need to unmute. What do you see in the classroom?
Okay, I wasn't able to hear Jennifer really well, and we're from the same district, so we may be saying the same thing. We see a lot of teachers teaching from a flip chart or Promethean board from the front of the room.
Okay. Well, I believe in a visual presentation. Our lessons are basically PowerPoint. But the teacher doesn't read the slides. We do a lot of choral reading. Let's read the definition. A character is a person, animal, or thing in a story who talks or do so. Let's read that definition. And then we do a checking for understanding question when we hold up our whiteboards, and then we work a problem on the whiteboard and go back and forth with that. Okay. All right. So anyway, this is, I should say, Explicit Direct Instruction. You've already heard me mention that's the book we wrote, and that's what we're looking for. Now, let me just see all the administrators. This is the form we use when we do our observations. It might be a small print, but if you look up here, learning objective, activate prior knowledge, concept development, skill development, guided practice, relevance, lesson importance, and closure. Okay. And independent practice. You might be tracking technology use, so whether the teacher or the student did it. You see these bubbles? You can do 10 teachers on one form. So if you look at this form, teacher number 1 and teacher number 5 were doing a learning objective when we walked in. Way over here, teacher number 6 was doing some explaining concept development. Okay. And skill development, when the teacher works a problem, should be modeling her thinking of how to solve the problem. So these are lesson components, and these are delivery strategies here. Higher order questions, pair share, whiteboards, sentence frames, non-volunteer, text-based answer. And we've got some other like English learner strategies to remember, and a few other ones. But this is pretty easy. When you do this at the end, you're kind of counting up the bubbles. And I went to a district one time in LA with 2 of us went down there, and we kept checking other, working by themselves, working in groups, rotation stations, all these. And the principal got madder and madder. I said, no, there's no teaching. And finally, about the 7th or 8th class, he said, wait a minute, you're right. The kids are doing stuff, but the teacher's not delivering content. So this is one thing that sometimes comes up. That's like that first observation form I had, that this is exactly what we do. We kept checking them over here. So when we come to schools, Derek, what did we send that quote to? It was Alabama for statewide analysis of instructional practices in another state. I think we did another district someplace in the last few days. And I always say we're going to start with classroom observations. This is it. And the administrators have to come with us. I mean, it's not just me, the coaches and everybody. I'll just tell you one thing when we do this. We have a training first, so we know what we're looking at. We bubble standing on our own. We only sit there for 5 minutes. We only mark what we see. No things what we think is happening. We have to see the learning objective being taught. Or we have to see a whiteboard come up. Then we go out in the corridor and we start talking. Let me see all the forms. And you'd be surprised that you've done coaching. The first 3 or 4 times, everybody bubbles different things. We need to distinguish between periodic review and activate prior knowledge and independent practice. They're not the same thing. Periodic review is, distributed practice. Activating prior knowledge is getting ready for the new content. They're not the same thing. So anyway, it does take a little while to get in sync, but after a few classes, we get in sync. So this is one of the most important things we do at school is classroom observation. And here's another one. You can see all the people that were doing this other right here. let's see, what can I say here? We started in 97. My wife has a doctorate. She's really the other half of the educational half, has a doctorate in education. She was an assistant superintendent, middle school, high school principal. She'd done a lot of things. We started by analyzing.
Hold on. Done a lot of things. One about every award there is a sheet about this long of bullet points, every award since 1989. So I didn't want you to skip over that point. There's a lot of research that's been done by Dr. Sylvia Ibarra.
Yeah, I guess I spoke too fast. She was Administrator of the Year. She got multiple awards. She did a lot of grants, recognized school awards. Yeah, I'm saying a little bit too fast. But this is the way we started, which I think was a mistake. We started out analyzing test scores, and that's what everybody starts with. We're going to raise test scores. And then one day a principal said, don't show me we were 600 schools. Don't show me the test scores, show me how to raise the test scores. And it was like an aha moment. I said, Sylvia, we're in the wrong business. We're not going to raise test scores by looking at test scores. There are things you can learn from test scores. Usually is your curriculum out of sync? The very low responses wasn't taught. Are the students guessing in a few things? But said, we need to switch. Then we went to collecting student assignments, and we developed a process called curriculum calibration, and we started collecting assignments. This is when the standards first came out, and I'll just show you our graph. It's pretty interesting. We did 1 million. We did 776 schools in South Carolina. We had a 2-year contract with the Department of Education there. Basically, every teacher in the whole state, I think we collected student work. Okay, and these are the type of things we found. If you can see it here, this is the grade level. You can see right here, K to 12, right here. This is the grade level of the assignments. We calibrated. We looked at every single page, and we looked it up in the standards. Okay, and you can see the 6th grade was being taught at the 4.6. The 12th grade was taught really at about the 8th grade level. So high school was being taught about the middle school level. Now, here's the problem. We collected a sheet where the kids were doing expansion of numbers, like 938 is 900s, 310s, 81s, in 6th grade, and they were getting A's. That assignment is actually a 2nd grade assignment, expansion of numbers to 3 digits. So this was an eye-opener when we started. And just for an example, 4th grade, we need to know what exponents are. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. And, anyway, we need to move up. I don't think you'll see this problem as much now. Schools are much more aware of standards, but this was a very early finding. So wait, I could just ask something right here. Do you think your schools are teaching on grade level? What do you think?
They have the materials to teach on grade level, but whether that's always happening or not is a different.
Well, what we did was the teachers were given folders, and they had to collect every piece of paper for a week. Now, this is the taught curriculum. I think you understand taught curriculum versus adopted curriculum. So the taught curriculum is what they were actually teaching. And then we found stuff like 20 or 30% of the worksheets were coming from the internet. They were teacher created, and the textbooks were not really being used that much. So you do find out other things. So curriculum calibration was a big thing we did for a while. Okay, I don't think it's as important now, but it'd be easy to look at student work. If you're doing coaching, grab a worksheet in every classroom and write down the grade level, and then take a look at it later. Another thing we did when we collected the last group, we had the teachers write the standard they thought they were teaching. And they were only right in ELA, I think about 50% of the time, so they were not completely up to speed on what the standards were. Let me ask, do you have any pacing guides about what to teach each week? Yeah, because we've written a lot of those at DataWorks, and there's certain things in the book that you should skip that don't need to be done. There's a lot of review at the beginning. Sometimes you can really start further in. You just have to look at the material, so it can be a little more scientific than just teaching straight through. And in the next one, we went to classrooms, and we started looking at classrooms, and you've seen some results and stuff from there. Oh, here we are. There's Sylvia right there. We're in China. We're training here. There's 500 teachers in China. This is the teachers teaching English. Here we are in the Netherlands. All right, let me go on. I can give a little philosophical stuff here, and then let's just actually look at some real practices in a minute. Okay, so what is effective instruction? Okay, so we're all going to read. Choral reading was one of our strategies. So we're all going to read. Everybody read. Effective instruction is an evidence-based plan for creating and delivering well-designed and well-taught lessons. Okay, if you're taking notes, write 2 words, design and delivery. Design, you have written concept development, you have checking for understanding. Delivery, we read together, we hold up whiteboards, we pair share, we use complete sentences. So that little red poster at the beginning, those are delivery strategies, and the design is, I've got bullets here, I've got checking for understanding, I've got color coding and different things. Okay. All right, we're going to read our first bullet together. Okay, everybody get ready. Characteristics of effective instruction. Everybody read, go. Designed to produce at least 80% student success, then corrective feedback to 100%. Okay, this is something important for coaching. When the boards come up 50-50, you should know it's boards down. Now, this is interesting. When you get to 80%, you don't need to reteach the whole class for the last 3 kids. It slows the pace down, and this class is basically ready. What you do, like if you got some incorrect whiteboards, then you call them, give them cues and prompts, and correct them just on the spot with a couple minutes. But don't teach the whole class anymore. You're calling them to explain their answers, justify, and then provide feedback. So, but you do need to get to this 80% threshold. Okay. All right, the next one, effective instruction. Everybody read, go. Works with all grade levels and disciplines. Okay, so it doesn't matter what grade level, what content are you. Now, this is an important one. Let's read it together. Students learn concepts, even if there are some sub-skill errors, 100%. Okay, some of you taught around 3rd or 4th grade subtraction with regrouping. Okay, we used to call it borrowing, but subtraction with regrouping. 100% of the kids should know when you regroup. You know, when the numbers, which one is the bigger number, you should know when to regroup. A student might make a math fact error. He might go 12 minus 9 and put 2. That's a math fact error. The concept part is when you need to regroup. So let's not let sub-skills stop us. We're all going to get it conceptually. Now we know a setting is where the story takes place. If they're poor readers, we can drop the Lexile level down. We could use shorter sentences, which we do. We use very short paragraphs because we want to get the idea across in a hurry and not have to read for 10 minutes to find something. But everyone should end up knowing the concepts. Okay. And I haven't looked at your test. I don't know if anyone can tell me off the top of your head. In your state math test, what percentage do you think are conceptual questions? I don't know what it is. I know in Texas where we were, a very high percentage are conceptual questions, especially when you get up to algebra and stuff. You're not doing these long manipulations. You're looking at a chart and you're telling what's the x-intercept, what's the y-intercept, what's the slope. You don't need a lot of computations, but if you don't understand the vocabulary conceptually, you can't do it. Okay, the next thing in here, effective instruction increases motivation. Okay. See, Derek's already trained. He knows to read with me.
Yeah,
I think everybody started to. I forgot to cue you. All right, motivation. Here, write them down. Non-volunteers. When you get the sticks, you know, all of a sudden the students know to pay attention. I'm sure all of you have done staff development. Years ago, when I started using the sticks during professional development, the teachers stopped reading the newspaper. They put down their cell phones. Well, even the teachers had to pay attention because I was going to pull sticks with the teachers. Okay, so the first reason is non-volunteers. The second one is lesson importance. Kids, let me tell you why you're learning this today, especially high school. Every high school lesson should include lesson importance as career related. Okay, and the third reason is just this little quotes, I can do it. When kids can do something new, it's motivating, it's fun, it's exciting as a human to do something new. So the 3 ways to do motivation are, what was it? Non-volunteers, lesson importance, and the third one is what? I can do it. Improving attendance. I don't think you need to be funny as a teacher, but you do need to be engaging. Kids are doing stuff, they're paying attention, they're learning stuff, they're not doing brain busters. Okay, turn in homework. You can just write this down. Students know how to do it before it's given. This is the secret to homework. They know how to do it. We taught a demo lesson in Los Angeles sometime, and the next day the teacher said, I think Sylvia taught the lesson, I had students turn in homework who've never turned in homework the whole year. And Sylvia looked up and said, that's because they knew how to do it. Derek, I was just talking to a person to cook out food, a restaurant yesterday, and she says, my kids don't know how to do the homework and I can't help them. And my son is 11. So, I mean, you can't count on the parents to help do homework anymore. The parents' job is to get the kids settled down to do the homework, but not to actually teach it. Okay, discipline problems. When the kids are busy doing things, all of a sudden discipline actually kind of dissipates. I taught an algebra lesson. The principal said, John, you did 90 interactions in 45 minutes. The kids were just, they never stopped. And even the kid said, the bell rang already? I mean, you're just doing a lot. So I think this all works. These are the books we wrote. You've probably heard of Explicit Direct Instruction. There's a French version. That's this one. Here's the one for English learners. Here's the one in Dutch. You can see Explicit Direct Instruction. It's here, the top 10 educational books. And there we are. We're number 1. So it's been number 1 there actually for quite a while. Okay, I've talked too long. I know Derek should have said you need a question. We need to go more choral reading. So here's my question just for this page, okay? And okay, now let me stop right here for the coach and those of you who are working with teachers. This is the best way checking for understanding is. You have a written checking for understanding question, and it's got academic language in it. Look at effective instruction, because that's my whole slide was effective instruction. And I want the kids to talk about, you know, what I was talking about, and I want them to use that vocabulary, effective instruction. And I added the word insight. So I have a written question. I have a written sentence frame, how we're going to answer it. Now, this is hints for me. We're going to use whiteboards. We're going to pair share. B goes first. I'm going to call a non-volunteer. I don't normally write this because I know how to do it. But the coaches, you might have a couple stickies and kind of remind the teachers ahead of time how we're going to do it. And when we orally read this, we just say blank and blank. Now, for young students, we pre-read. So this time I'm going to pre-read. So students, this is the question. What insight did you have about effective instruction? Why? Class, we're going to read. Go. What insight did you have about effective instruction? Why?
Why?
Now, when you answer, this is how you're going to answer. We're just going to say blank and blank. I'll read first. My insight about effective instruction is blank because blank. Okay, let's read. My insight about effective instruction is blank because blank. Okay, write your answer on your whiteboard. That's this part right here. Just write a couple of words. You don't need a complete sentence at this point. Anything I talked about on this page. There's some numbers, some words I had in bold. Now, if we were in the classroom, we would be sharing with our partners. But, you know, I just thought of something right here. We did that choral read. We actually all said the question, and we actually said some of the words in the answer. So if you've got English learners or struggling students or low-performing reading fluency, we're actually supporting reading, just reading the question, and we're going to do it again when we do the pair share. Okay, let's chin it. Let me see the answers. What insight did you have about instruction? Okay, we've got them. Okay, Jennifer, you got yours. Can you read it to the class? My insight about effective instruction?
My insight about effective instruction is motivation, because when students are motivated, they learn more.
Okay, good. Okay, now notice she justified her answer, because when they're motivated, they learn more. If you had not done that as a teacher, I would have said, why do you think that? You've heard me say this a couple times. Well, why do you think that? How do you know? So justify your answer is part of it. Okay, okay, can you read me your answer?
Okay. My insight about effective instruction is that students learn concepts, even if there are some subskill errors, because concepts are going to transfer from problem to problem, situation to situation.
Right. And, you know, I had this idea one time, you know, we talk about what standards fit for what age level. I think every kid, brain-wise, can do the grade level concepts. They don't know multiplication facts. They have little weak reading skills, but the concepts are not beyond what anyone can learn. Characterization, character trait, compare and contrast text. They may not be a good reader, but they can understand compare and contrast as things are the same and things are different, and they're going to use transition words and stuff like that. So I like that. Okay, DAH.
Not sure if she's back. She had put a note in that she was out on hall duty.
Okay, all right, let's just go on. Now, I'll just give you one insight on instructional leadership. Let's just read this part right here. Focus on the instructional program. This is instructional leaders. Plant managers focus on the facilities. So just think this right now, principals, district people, we should be working on the instructional program. That's what we're calling them instructional leaders. You're managing the instructional program, the curriculum, what we teach, how we teach it, the assessments, feedback from assessments. All right. So I'm going to go, one more thing. You've heard of the achievement gap between groups of students. Let's read right here. Ready? Close the teacher implementation gap and ultimately the achievement gap. Okay, so one of our goals, I think we were talking about, some teachers are doing it. We have sometimes we implement, sometimes we don't. So we're trying to get that 90% implementation. All right, we're going to skip up here. Okay, we'll do this one, then we'll do some instruction. This is really for the coaching and really about school reform. This is a famous study from Joyce and Showers, and you could look it up, but this is it. How many people will use a new skill they were just taught in a training? And here it is. 5% of people will go out on Monday and do what they were just taught on Friday. PD has a kind of a low success rate from this research. Now, you need to see some demonstrations. So in our training, we always play some videos. I do some examples. We practice at our tables. Practice the checking for understanding question with your partner. Practice the tracked reading. Okay. And then sometimes we have teachers come up and we provide corrective feedback. But to get the 90%, remember that's our goal, to get 90%. To get 90%, we need, let's all read it together. What's this word right here? In situational coaching. Okay, so in situational coaching means you're standing up almost like co-teaching and you're cueing. You have to tell the teachers you're going to do it. They have to know what you're looking for, but this is what really causes change. And I've done every type of coaching with sticky notes, with emails, providing feedback. The only one that really works is standing there and have them do it while you're sitting right there. You're going to actually practice it while we're doing it. So I do have a question here. How can you provide in situational coaching, and are you doing in situational coaching? Now, here's a couple rules. I told you the coach should be in the classroom every day. That's your job. Is really, you're doing other things, but you should be in the job almost several hours a day, floating around classrooms. They can be organized, they could be assigned, they could be posted observations or non-announced. You've got two, announced and unannounced observations. Okay. And then the principal should be in the classroom part of every day also. It's part of your job to go around the classroom and watch what's going on and be ready to give a cue. Oh, could they use their whiteboards? Oh, good answer. Can he explain how he got his answer? And in situational coaching is usually, sometimes you can do it directly to the kids. Oh, kids, do you have your whiteboards? Can you get them out and write your answer on your whiteboard? And the teacher, yeah, get your whiteboards out. And then sometimes you're just whispering to the teacher, usually during the pair shares, make sure they get the complete sentence. So cue for the complete sentence. Now remember, we're cueing for the strategies we talked about a few minutes ago. There it is, the complete sentences, the pair share, whiteboards and stuff like this.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So in situational coaching, I think that's something that we sort of tiptoe around because of teacher comfort or not wanting to overstep. So I think if it's presented to teachers beforehand, like in a PLC,
oh, yeah.
We are going to be practicing in situational coaching this year. So be prepared, and sort of play that out, let them know what that's going to look like. And,
Yeah.
because that can get a little dicey, if you don't give them
I've had it blow up on me, and you want to be careful. And I'm going to give you a couple of hints. Let's just look up here. This poster right here that I've been talking about today, most of your coaching is this. And you should have a training ahead of time, just like today. You put the poster up there, you explain to all the teachers what this looks like, and you say and this is what your coaching is. You cannot redesign a lesson on the fly. What you can do is this, and you can tell, non-volunteers and a few other things, but you're absolutely right. You need to set it up, and then you have announced and unannounced. Now, I'll tell you one thing that's funny. When we do demo lessons, we have the 4 or 5 teachers. We have a teacher team, and I teach a demo lesson first, and they watch, and then the other teachers do it. I'm telling you, every teacher in the back of the room can see we should have pair shared. Not the person teaching, but the teachers, and everybody does. And I don't know if you can look at my picture. Do you see my hands like this talking? This is our visual cue. Like a coach, you can use this. You can just stand in the back of the room and let everybody else know, oh, this means I want to do a pair share. Okay. And I think this stretch it out, that means give me a complete sentence. This little flip is give me whiteboards. Okay. And this little like non-volunteer. Okay. So you can use these hand signals from the back of the room. I'll tell you one more. You can do this when you're starting. It's called a pre-announce. I'm going to be looking for whiteboards this week. The coaches and the principals and I are going to look out. I want everyone to do a whiteboard when I walk in the room. Within a minute or two, do something to show me you got a whiteboard. I'm even going to write the word whiteboard on my whiteboard when I come in. Or I want to see non-volunteers or sticks. So this is another one. It's called a focused walkthrough. Focused walkthrough. So there's 2 or 3. There's focused walkthrough. There's announced and unannounced. Announced is you schedule the time, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9:30. They know you're coming. They're perfectly prepared. And you're seeing if they can do it. Unannounced is, are they doing it? And we're trying to develop that automaticity where teachers do this without thinking, and we need the coaching to do it. So now, why don't we just talk a little bit about the practices, what we would be looking for. And I'm just going to go over a few on here. I can't do the whole training, but let's just look at this one right here. If you're just writing a couple things down, concept development, written definitions, I think it says right there, written definitions, here, there it is, written definitions, labeled examples, and a checking for understanding question. Okay, so you say, a character is a person in a story who talks and does things. Now you read a little thing. The dancing frog got up and said, I found the missing ball. Look, he's talking and doing something. So the written definition, and then you elaborate just off the top of your head, pointing to the examples, and then a checking for understanding. All right, the next one.
Speaking of example, let's see an example. Adversary example, perhaps.
Oh yeah, well this would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can see what.
Let me do. Well, I just did that one right here. Characters in a story. I think this is a kindergarten lesson, but I think we could still do it.
So John was giving you kind of like the abstract. This is it on a sheet here that, this is one way of doing it. It's EDI laid out in lessons.
Okay, so students, we've got this is case. We've got our definition. I'm going to read, you're going to read after me. A character, now very slow for K. A character is a person, animal, or thing in a story. Let's read together. A character is a person, animal, or thing in a story. Now let's talk about what characters do. I'll read first. Characters talk or do something. Your turn. Characters talk or do something. Look, here's a character. Her name is Josie. Can you all say that? Josie. One day, a little girl named Josie was crying in the park. She's a character. What? She's doing something. She's crying. She lost her ball. Here's the dancing frog. The dancing frog said, I have a gift for you, Josie. It was a new ball. So the dancing frog is a character. What? He's talking or doing something. Now, remember I said a minute ago, gestures is one of our strategies. So I'm just going to do the rest of it. Students, I want to remember this sentence. Everybody look at me. A character is a person. Everybody point to themselves. A person. An animal. Show me an animal with funny ears. Animal or a thing. Point to your hand like this. In a story. Let's all say it together. Ready to go? A character is a person, animal, or thing in a story. Okay, now, how do we know they're characters? Let's look at the next part. I'll read. Characters talk. Show me talking. Or do something. Okay, let's read together. Characters talk or do something. Okay, now turn to your partner and get your hands up and tell me what characters do. Right here, everybody. Characters talk or do something. Okay. Gestures is one of our strategies. You can see it up here. Remember we talked about that earlier. This is what I mean, gestures for content, as opposed to gestures for EL, like minuscule, gigantic. Now, it's conveying meaning for a sentence and it's helping you remember something. Okay, back up a second. This is the written definition right here. And labeled example, labeled means they're color-coded right here. And we've got cues. What's the critical attributes? They talk, so we've got talking. We've got a person, Josie. We've got the animal. Now, the checking for understanding has to apply to a new example. I don't ask you who is the character in this story. You must apply it to a new example. Can the monkey be a character? Oh, the red and green. Can you see me? I have these little red and green. So for very young students that can't write, we just say red or green. Show me, yes or no. Okay. So we got the question and we got a sentence frame. Can the monkey be? Yes. You're going to hold up, you're going to explain to your partner, and then you're going to answer. In a complete sentence, monkey can be a character because it talks or does something. Now, the next part of the checking for understanding, now I need to do the reverse logic. Can the park be a character in a story? Why? And we've taught this a lot of times. It's very successful. Turn to your partner, get out your thing, be ready to show me. The park cannot be a character in a story. This is how you're going to answer. Park cannot be a character story because it does not talk or do something. And I think you know concept development is called critical attributes: talk, do something, person, animal. And the critical attributes are what you use to answer your questions. The attributes are what you allow to distinguish between everything. All right. So, you know, now you got me started, Derek. I think I need to do one more example. Let me give you another one just that we're looking right here. Where is unit fraction? This is a pretty interesting one to show conceptual development. Okay, a unit fraction. There's the activate prior knowledge. Okay, here's the concept: written definitions, labeled examples. A unit fraction represents one equal part of a whole. Here's one equal part of a whole circle. The numerator is always 1. Look, it's 1. The denominator is the total number of parts. Look, it's 4. And they have to be equal. And concept development is what? Critical attributes. I've got 3, I think. Numerator is 1. Denominator is the number of parts. And they have to be equal. And this is a non-example because they are not equal. And then we define numerator and denominator. All right, look at the next page. My checking for understanding. Can you apply the definition to this figure? And the critical attribute here is what? I think it's their equal parts. Okay, and this would be whiteboards. Turn your write A or B on your whiteboard. Turn to your partner. Be ready. Here's the sentence frame. Blank shows the unit fraction because, and we've got the answer pops up right there. Okay, I should ask you, do you have any English learners in your classrooms? If you've got English learners, the sentence frames and all these things are even more important. So the first question was, could you apply it to a visual? And the second question is what? Could you apply it numerically? So in this case, this is a unit fraction because that's 1. And I'm just going to tell you the next one is, can you connect a visual figure to a fraction? So this is what I call like higher order, apply to a different example each time. All right, I didn't mention on that page, but we have what's called rule of 2 or mirrored problems. If you look at this page, I think I've got my little writing things here. So this is the teacher and this is the student. So everything we do in EDI is matched problems. The teacher models her thinking. We read the problem. We determine the unit fraction. It pops in this case. Now the teacher has to ask, where did I get that 3 from? Where did I get the 1 from? It's right here. How did I? Then we have to explain it with a complete sentence. The unit fraction 1/3 represents 1 part. And you have to read this. We're going to read it. We're going to read it. Okay. And then the kids do this one. Show your whiteboard answers, explain where you got the numerator and denominator, read the phrase right here. So these are called process questions. How did I? How did you? Okay. Yeah, we're going to run out of time. So I'll just give you one more thing on here. We've talked a little bit about the things on this page here. All right. The last one is effective feedback when students can't answer. Let's read this together. I'll come back to you.
To you.
Okay, coach, you need these strategies. When you see a frustrated kid, you just say, just come back to them. Okay. Here's another one. 2 wrong answers, reteach. This is coaching. When you see the teacher fishing for the answer, calling more and more kids, you say, stop. 2 wrong answers, reteach. All right. So let's just see if I can do a couple here. We'll just look at I'll just give some examples, and we could just see some of these strategies in action. All right. So let's look at one of these. I'll come back to you. You'll see other strategies, the track reading, the pair shares. You might see other things. You'll see several strategies. This is Sylvia.
Now I want you to interpret the unit fraction.
Do we have sound? Okay. Interpret the unit. Remember that last sentence? We're going to interpret.
Megan? You need some more time? Okay, go ahead and interpret your unit fraction, and then I'll ask somebody else, but I'm coming right back to you, so be ready to answer. Jason, can you interpret your unit fraction, please?
Unit fraction,
Okay, you know something? We're going to read this word together one.
Remember, pronunciation is one of our strategies. And here this child is stuck on the pronunciation. The teacher recognizes that's the problem. So we're going to practice the whole class. We're not pointing to him.
More time. Represents. Let's read it one more time, please. Represents. One more time. Represents. Okay, Jason.
The unit fraction represents one slice of eight equal slices.
Very nice. 8 equal slices. That's what that means. Okay, one more person. Daisy.
The unit fraction represents one slice of 8 equal parts.
Is it parts in this case, or should we call it slices?
Slices.
Okay, so can you read the last 2 words for me, please?
Equal slices.
Yeah, because we're talking about the pizza. You know, in mathematics, sometimes we talk about parts because we're talking about a circle, but in this case, we're talking about equal parts of a pizza, so there's slices. Megan, are you ready to interpret?
The unit fraction represents one slice of 8 equal slices.
Of 8 equal slices. Very nice.
All right. I'll play one with me in it because this will probably be about the last one we can do. This is a high school lesson, and we're working on the gestures. And let me just pick it right down here. Plate tectonics. Remember, gestures is one of our strategies.
Convergent boundaries. Okay, here's a picture of it. Let's read the definition first. A convergent boundary occurs when one plate dies under another. Circle con, the first part of this word con. Con, I know in Spanish means with. Chile con carne means with something. So con means what? They're coming together. So we're going to remember that little prefix. Con is what they're coming together. They come together and one dies under another. So they don't just hit and crunch like a car crash. They actually kind of go like this. So one flows up and the other kind of bends down. They're great big and they kind of go like this. So let's do this with our hands. Let's pretend we have 2 continents or 2 plates. As they come together, one of them goes down. So bend your hand down a little bit, and then the other one kind of bend up a little bit. Okay, have you got that? Let's do it one more time. Convergent, what are we doing? Coming together, and we're kind of going like this. They slip over each other. So it's the same thing. Convergent, coming together. Divergent, coming apart. So let's read it. Ready, go. Divergent boundary. Read the whole thing. A divergent boundary occurs when plates pull away from each other. So when they diverge, they're going apart like this. Okay, show me your hands. What are they doing? It's pretty easy. They're coming apart. So let's get our hands up there. With transvergent, we're going like this. All right, one more time. Convergent, we're coming together. Divergent, we're going apart. And trans is what? We're going like this. Okay.
Anyway, and eventually this became the literacy approach. You see how we have a graphic organizer, a visual, a definition, and some characteristics. And I think later we read some questions and we learned more by reading some text and analyzing the text. So that would be the literacy part. But this is not just me just talking for 40 minutes while the kids sit there. It's much more interactive than that. All right, so I think we're down to the last couple minutes. So I think I've got my last question. See if you can tell me a couple things you learned today that could help your students. Anything we saw on here. We talked about lesson design. We talked about a written definition. We said the teacher works one, the students work one. We picked non-volunteers. Of course, we teach first. We don't say who knows. We had all our strategies for engagement in here, and we had a little bit about corrective feedback over here. So put down a couple things. Some strategies that would help my students are. And I see, Doctor, somebody in here, you're going to be the last one, so have an answer ready. You only saw a few minutes, but be ready. All right, Tanya, I think you're the first one. I'm just saying because you're in that order on my screen. What's something you think would help your students? Has everybody got something ready? Okay, let's chin it. I forgot to chin it. Where's the coach? You should have cued me. Look for the boards. Now, if this is a cue, you'll see it because teachers will start, they'll kill without calling for the boards. Tanya, I think you're the first one. You read yours. Some strategy will help your students.
Okay, I really liked the amount of choral reading was done. It wasn't just like, okay, we're going to do it one time. It was consistent across the board, and so many of our students struggle with reading that the more that they can speak out loud and read from text, the better. And that's sort of a secure way to be able to do that. Also, really like the non-examples. I think that's so important. And on the sheets you were using for concept development, the non-examples were fabulous.
Yeah. This is coachable. Part of the coaching job is the pre-teach meeting. I said, do you have examples and non-examples? That's pre-teach. During the lesson is really your coaching for this. Okay, the coach, can you give me your response?
Yes, I have some strategies that would help my students. I only got to one on the board. The 2 wrong answers, reteach. I really like the stop now in the middle of the lesson, do another example, clarify before the class ends or before you move on to practice.
Yeah. We used to get stuck when kids couldn't answer. Now we have strategies. It's just so easy. I just know what to do. And you don't have to have a meltdown as a teacher. And it's easy to cue. Just reteach. Come back to them in a minute. And there's a few other ones. Okay, let's see, Jennifer. Something that could help your students?
Y'all had some great strategies pointed out, but also with the gestures, because the more they're engaged, not only with hearing and seeing and also listening in those movements, just add another way to make sure that comprehension is there and they're getting a fully understanding of the concept. So I really like that.
No, everyone's trying to get some kinesthetic activities. It's hard to do. You can move around, but it's not related to the concept. So this is kinesthetic, actually related to the concept. And by the way, K is you teach for 20 minutes and have to have a physical break. Jump up and down, hokey pokey, something. That's the attention span is 20 minutes. Okay, doctor, you're the last one. Something you learned. I know you're only here for a few minutes, but maybe you picked up something.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds great.
Some strategies that will help my students are whiteboards and pair share.
Okay, and why'd you select those?
I don't know what you said because I was not here, but with the whiteboards, teachers are able to see what each student knows as opposed to one student going to the main board. And with the pair share, students are able to practice with a partner before sharing with the class.
Oh, you could give my training for me. Yeah, when you call one kid to the board, that's one person. When you do the whiteboards, everybody does it, right? You can see if they've had any errors, you can correct the feedback, everybody has to, it becomes more active. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. Okay, I just want to do one more thing at the end. I think you know DataWorks does training in EDI. It's kind of our main business, Explicit Direct Instruction, and we do trainings in these things. A lot of schools like us to start with a little 1-hour engagement norm that kind of gets the ball rolling. But full PD, you know, is like a 6-hour training. And then, let's see, you're in Tennessee, right? Yeah, Derek, we just did a webinar in Tennessee last week, I think it was. A little school, I'm not sure how big it was. I think they only had 20, maybe 20 teachers, well, whatever it was. Anyway, and then the next thing we do that not too many people do is we'll come and teach at your school. That was Dr. Ibarra teaching at some school someplace. And I was teaching at some school, I think in Los Angeles when I did that. So we can come afterwards and do demo lessons and your teachers watch. Then after we teach it, we go to another classroom and the teachers teach the same lesson that we just taught with different students. And have you ever noticed how nervous teachers are when you do these type of activities? They have a meltdown. So I said, okay, we're going to divide the lesson into 3 people. You're each going to teach for like 10 minutes. That's going to be it. You don't need to do the whole thing. I'll be standing next to you, or the DataWorks person will be standing next to you. If you forget to do it, we'll just take over and do it, or we'll cue you what to do. Now, you saw me do it, and I said, don't memorize the words I said. What you should be knowing is that I had the kids read all the time. I used the whiteboards. I used the pair share. Think at the strategy level and not memorize the words I said. And then the other thing we can do is we can come back then and lead the walkarounds, usually with the leadership teams. And there's 2 ways to do it, the pre-walkaround and the post-walkaround. Now that we're so busy on implementation, I usually don't bother with the pre-walkaround. I said, let's just do the training, and then afterwards we'll start working at the observation and coaching level. Derek, one time somebody said, well, why don't we tell them what we're going to look for when we do the pre-walkaround? Tell them we're looking for pair shares and non-volunteers. Oh, they'll cheat. They'll start doing them. And I almost laughed. I said, that's what we want. I said, we don't need to make it a secret. And we're not doing a research study. We're trying to get implementation. Okay, so anyway, I think we've run over our hour. We're a little bit after right now. So how many schools do you have altogether?
We have 26 in our district.
26 schools?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've done big trainings where we train at every school. And then sometimes we'll do it maybe by grade span. Let's put all the K3 together, the 4, 5, 6, the middle school, high school. We've done different ways. You can't train 26 schools in one training. Now, the demo lessons get more difficult because you can't have everyone participate. It's usually only 4 or 5 teachers. So we do a grade level span and the teachers come in. You get roving subs and then have the teachers, and then maybe we do a second demo lesson during the same day. And then when they teach after, the coaches, you have to be with us during these demo lessons because there's also a coaching training. And usually after we do a few of them, you can be doing the coaching too. You'll see how we do it. It'll be pretty obvious you're queuing. Mostly you're queuing for what's in the red poster there, the pronounce, right here, pronounce with me, track with me, and then some of these too. So, and then we can do the walk around. I think, Derek, the last time I went to New York, I did one of these. Well, I couldn't do that number of schools all at once, but we came out in 5 days. We pulled teacher groups out every couple of hours. I did a training on Monday. We did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday demo lessons, and Friday was a walk around. And the principal got called to the district and said, I'll just call some teachers to do the walk around. The teacher said that was the best thing they had ever done. And I tell you, I come to the school and say, I know more than you. I just saw 45 teachers. Say, well, I've been teaching here for 20 years. You've watched yourself teach for 20 years. I just saw 45 teachers at your district. Teachers do not have enough perspective. They see themselves too much. So after I start these 5-minute walk-arounds, you should be scheduling them for teachers. And they walk around. They don't even have to be coaching them. And you'll see teachers that say, oh, now I see how to do that. You know, it really works very well. So anyway, if you got any more questions, I can take another question. Otherwise, I think we're just about ready to stop.
Okay, so if you were to come to our school and work with 4 or 5 teachers, what would be the best way to select those 4 or 5 teachers to participate in
Now, are you talking about the training or the demo lessons?
the demo lessons?
Well, you could pick you must have focus areas. You must have, if you've got your test scores, maybe you've got low grade spans on content areas. A lot of schools used to be low in ELA, but some schools now math is a focus. So you could pick, why don't you look at your scores someplace and pick a focus area? Now we can start on that.
Okay.
And I'm not the only people. We've got Sylvia, we've got 3 or 4 people here. I can't always do every training myself, but we've got other people. You saw Sylvia in there and the other people do it. But yeah, and we can go, in Texas, Sylvia and I taught from K, phonemic awareness, that T sound in kindergarten to quadratic functions in high school. So, and chemistry, I mean, Sylvia was a chemistry teacher. I mean, we've got pretty broad between the people we got, we can do almost. What would you think is your focus area at your school right now?
I would say math.
Math, okay.
Math, and it's across the grade levels, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In high school, I don't go beyond algebra. The gatekeeper is algebra. I don't need to worry about calculus, algebra 2. I mean, I'd like the teachers to have the training, but algebra 1 is usually where we focus. And I'll just tell you, yeah, go ahead.
We're before that, so it's more just processes that are getting lost across the years.
Yeah, well, the algebra starts in middle school, the 1-step, 2-step equations. It's already there. It needs to be rock solid there. Let me just tell you one more about math facts. You need to get math facts down. And teacher said, I gave that 2-minute test every Monday and the math facts never got any better. I said, that's retrieval. You're retrieving the facts, and you can't retrieve the ones that are not in your long-term memory. It's basically chanting 6 times 8 is 48. Tell it to your partner 6 times 8. Have your partner tell you back. Write 6 times 8 is 48 3 times on your whiteboard. Read it to your partner 3 more times. I'm going to hold up a flashcard. What is 6 times 8? And then you just do it. You need that chanting. Okay, we got away from chanting, but the brain, I didn't show you my brain research, but when you say 6 times 8 is 48, it starts firing those neural paths, and when it changes the chemistry in the brain. So chanting is for stuff you need to memorize, that you need to know right away. It's not for long-term practices, how to do something. I mean, a little bit of chanting a couple of times to say the word or something. But anyway, we've been in thousands of classrooms. Derek, I said, I've only seen the math facts being taught multiplication 1 time, and I did it myself. It was a demo lesson. I never saw it, you know.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, you should have the math facts taped to the desk, you know, that little table, 0 to 10, 0 to 10. And the kids should be referring to that every day. And they're actually learning, just by referring to it, they're getting another repetition to remember it. So, but don't let the math facts stop you. You cannot stop. You can do, and then calculators is the other one. I'm going on here, but Derek, I saw volume. So the teacher said, I have a box, 2 by 3 by 1. Calculate the volume, 2 times 3 times 1. Okay, I have another one, 12 by 18 by 27. Get your calculators and calculate the volume. We just bypassed it. Okay, so you need to work around the sub-skills. Don't get stuck. We want to move conceptually. Then you can have intervention time to work on these other things. Yeah. I'm going to unshare. Derek, I don't know if you got any final words on DataWorks.
Well, you know, I shared the link there, the quiz. So if you are interested in having DataWorks come out to your school, kind of the easiest way to get started there is to go through that questionnaire, fill it out. It's a multiple choice, so it's pretty simple to go through. Our education consultant will go through your answers and kind of see what needs strengthening, what training programs might be a good fit. You may already know. You may want to bypass that and you can just fill out a form, but that kind of is how you can get started. Joel Soto is his name. He'll reach out and kind of work on the scheduling, the cost, do the sales process like that. And that's kind of how you can get started there. The brain research we didn't cover today. I'm a little bit sad on that. I love the brain research. You know, everything that EDI is doing, it's about getting those repetitions out there to transfer it from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. And some of the research that has been done on EDI shows that there's nothing else out there that teaches kids more and they retain more information in a shorter period of time. So it's effective and it's been proven to be effective. And I think that came from University of California's graduate school, Rossier. And that is on our EDI page, that big presentation that they did on it. So if it's something you're looking at putting in place, it's definitely been tried, tested, and proven to work over and over again.
Well, I'll continue my mini training. You see 24 exposures. Can you see right there? When you pair share, that counts as 2 exposures. You talk and listen. Outside pair shares. We do the choral read. If you pre-read, that's 2 more. You call 3 students, that's 3 more. You elaborate or echo what they said, that's 3 more. The whiteboards, everybody, you see what I mean? These are not just, we're doing choral reading. We're doing this to help you learn. When I did that history lesson in Texas and they put up that first thing, Martin Luther King did something, and I asked a question, the kids were almost stunned. They were used to the teacher just talking for 40 minutes. I said, no, I'm going to ask a question about Martin Luther. You're going to talk with your partner. You're going to write something on your whiteboard. And all of a sudden the kids, the learning just went up like this. They were not getting it just sitting there with the one-time teacher repetition. One time. So it's this, you might say these are important cognitive strategies to learn besides checking for understanding. Derek, I read that research. Checking for understanding, when the kids explain to their partners, they're learning it. Have you ever heard that phrase, the person who's talking is doing the learning? Okay, so as you talk to your partner, it's solidifying in your own brain. These are important strategies to learn, is talk, explain, hold up your board, and justify, and all of that. Okay. All right. I think with that, I better stop. Hi, Derek. You and I can talk later, and everybody else. You've got our emails there. We can send them back and forth. We got your emails too.
Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.